God, ladies and gentlemen, I don't get why sexual content is needed to be censored so heavily, but we can go on murder sprees in video games, and suddenly that's okay. Now, Sony has been doing the censorship stuff for a while, and a lot of people have been calling for it. You know what I mean? There's been a very vocal group that calls for this kind of stuff, and I kind of have to get my thoughts on it out. Ladies and gentlemen, I hate censorship. I hate censorship in any capacity. I think as an adult, when I watch content, I should be allowed to watch whatever I want without the government or any party intruding in what I should watch and shouldn't watch. Now, what weirds me out is Sony as a company is okay with censorship of sexual content, but on their same storefront, you are able to buy Manhunt for PS2 as a classic emulated game. Manhunt is one of the most ultra-violent games out there and probably stands as extremely adult when it comes to my perception of what should be considered adult. Like, it would almost pretty much be adults only. In some places, it's even banned. But Sony is okay with releasing that game. What Sony isn't okay with is releasing anything or toning down anything that has to relate to anything anything sexual, whether it be relations between characters or it may be something that could be violently sexual, whatever you want to call it. Anything adult when it comes to that part of adult content is banned by Sony, and I just don't get it. And it comes down to any game manufacturer out there, not just Sony, but game developers themselves, EA, Activision, whatever, that cave into this shit. Now, the people who outrage about this stuff, the outrage culture behind this, has some merits to it. I get it. Sometimes video games do sexual content for a gratuity reason. I get it. I understand. And I don't really get that either, but I still to this day think that they should be allowed to express whatever they want to express without fear of censorship. Because in my mind, all of it's okay or none of it's okay. Going on murder sprees in Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto is not any much more different than going on to a sexual escapade in GTA San Andreas hot coffee mods or going into anything in video games. This should all be treated in the same capacity. We are adults playing games. That's why video game ratings exist. 17 plus, when you're an adult, you should be able to have some sexual content in your video games without feeling like nuns are slapping you in the fucking face while you're playing these games. Ladies and gentlemen, might I remind you, there is an adults only section. If you want to view hardcore materials in your games, well, you have that rating as well. But when a television show like Game of Thrones can so gratuitously show sexual content, why is a video game like Yakuza not allowed to do the same thing in theory? You know, at the end of the day, both games have a story to offer, they are complex story pieces, you know, that release year after year after year. It's a giant story you get into. So in any capacity, it's not so much different than the other content-wise. One's interactive, one isn't. Why is it that one has to be treated like it's some children's toy when it clearly isn't, and the other one is allowed to have free reign doing what it needs to? And that leads me to an argument. A lot of people do this and they argue that it's for the children to keep them safe. If you're a parent buying your kid God of War and expecting that it's okay suddenly, but getting them a game that has the slightest edge of sexual content is enough for you, then you're a hypocrite. Because no, I would argue that two people having relations is far more normal than a mass murder spree going on in a video game. That is what I go with. I would rather be okay with having a normal aspect of humanity displayed than having a very gross violent act displayed. That in no way equates to me for being normal. Allow me to explain. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't just magically appear. When mommy and daddy love each other very much, guess what? Daddy puffs a cigarette after, mommy drinks some Gatorade, maybe she has a cigarette too. 9 months later, you're here. Bam, we just had the talk. Simple shit. But you don't come out from a bird delivering you in a sack. It doesn't work that way. There you go. You learn something about being an adult. That's it. Why is it that that's censored in video games? I just don't get it. The people that argue for this shit, that want it to be censored, they're not going to buy your games. They really won't. They're just here to be professional victims about it. That's all it comes down to. Is there an aspect of it that is offensive? Yeah, there is. For sure. And I totally sympathize with those people. That's why these issues aren't black and white to me. But when it comes to two characters having relations in a video game, or the slightest amount of sexualized content being shown, that's just a part of life. That shouldn't be censored in any form of art, ladies and gentlemen. That's stifling expression. The reason I'm talking about this too is when I look at something like Cyberpunk 2077, a game that I'm super excited for. I've been waiting for this game for years now. One of the aspects of controversy this game recently has had is it's shown a transsexual character who's had a body modification towards their dick or something, and apparently that triggered a bunch of people to the point where, you know, it's offensive. It's making light of people that are transsexual, when in my opinion over here, ladies and gentlemen, I don't have an issue with anybody in the LGBTQ. There's no reason why anybody should. People should be allowed to live their life in any case. But censoring material like that in a game just doesn't make any sense. What Cyberpunk 2077 is dictating is an aspect of human life. Sex does sell in reality. It sells a lot. If Cyberpunk chooses to cover that, then that shouldn't be stifled. It's not like they're doing it for gratuity's sake. It's to create an immersive world and environment. Video games are for kids, yes. But M-rated video games are for an adult group like me. We shouldn't be stifled. Video games are bigger than movies and television shows, not only by revenue earned, but by the amount of love and passion that goes into developing these things. I've been a lifelong gamer. I've been gaming since the SNES Genesis days, ladies and gentlemen. And back in those days, we had a different brand of games. Now, gaming has become better. We've had so many experiences that you can buy for $60 now that'll take you to worlds that you've probably never seen. For me, video gaming, at least story-based video games, have become like reading a book. And you know what? There are some books that I've read that go in really dark places. Why are my video games not allowed to do the same? Ladies and gentlemen, I get the whole think of the kids argument, but right now, when it comes to an M-rated video game, we shouldn't have levels of hypocrisy that allow us to show violence to such a great regard that we don't have to care too much about it. But anytime you have some strong language, or God forbid a nipple shows on screen, suddenly we have to call the moral police out and get rid of that. Ladies and gentlemen, this isn't the right way to handle it. Censorship is not getting us anywhere. If anything, censorship only accentuates something. If you wanted to hide it from reality, guess what? By telling people they shouldn't see something, oh, they're going to see it. They're going to go out of their way to do it. So no, it's not helping anyone. And Sony, you know what? I love you. I've been owning PlayStations. I own a PlayStation PSP Go. All right. Anybody that owns a PSP Go gets the automatic critique pass from any Sony fanboy or fangirl out there. I like Sony, but if you're going to go down the route of censoring video games, that shouldn't be allowed. That shouldn't be a thing that anyone should support. You know, and I couldn't support Sony in any case if they decided to go down that route, let alone any game developer. If CD Projekt Red decided to cave into people and censor their video game, I would expect if they were to censor a sexual aspect of their video game, they better censor all the violence too. They better tone down all the strong language as well. Because you know what? Either all of it's okay or none of it's okay. And that's just what mature video games come down to. I'm sick and tired of people treating video games like they're specifically designed for kids. Listen, if you're a parent and you're buying your kid God of War, then guess what? You're buying your kid a game where you can decap people, split them in half, but suddenly having slight sex in video games is bad for you? That's called being a hypocrite. And you know what? At that point, buy your kids Knack fucking 2, or buy them like, I don't know, Forza or something like that. Something where there isn't going to be a lot of violence. There isn't going to be strong language. There isn't going to be adult content. Because guess what? Adult content in an M-rated game shouldn't be a shocking turn of events to people. That's all I really got to say, ladies and gentlemen. It's a weird world I live in. But it's what it is. And you know what? This video doesn't need to go to 10 minutes or anything. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like if you dislike it, I am out.